Rodgers, the gift that keeps on giving. Hello, everybody. Listen, you are not seeing things. Mike and Mike did not get better looking. It is Woman Wednesday. So I have the privilege of hosting alongside my real life bestie, my sports bestie,
Yes.
Liv Mood, Olivia Moody in the building. Hi, my darling.
Hello. How are you?
So excited to be doing this with you. This is our first time hosting a show together. This is going to be fun.
I know. I'm very excited. I feel like there's a lot to talk about right now. The madness
There's
never ends.
there's a lot to talk about. It's going to be like our group chat or just our regular text thread come to life on this show for 1 hour. So let's just get right into it. We have a jam-packed show. A lot of cool guests are going to be joining us later on. But first and foremost, we got to talk about Aaron Rodgers and his now infamous appearance on the Pat McAfee show. Everyone was waiting on pins and needles to see what exactly Aaron Rodgers was going to say. He rambled for a bit in true Aaron Rodgers fashion. He dragged his feet a little bit, gave us some interesting backstory on what was going on with the Green Bay Packers and him behind the scenes. Let us know that, hey, towards the end of the season, I was pretty much retired, changed my mind, and I have all intentions, keyword intentions, on playing for the New York Jets, but alludes to the fact that the Packers are the ones holding up the trade, the situation from actually unfolding. Liv, kind of break down what you made of Aaron Rodgers' debacle, if you will. Debacle. What did you take away from that?
At a whole lot of drama, which I feel like is the case with him all the time. I feel like every single season we're hearing, is he playing? Is he not? Is he retiring? Is he not? Is he staying in Green Bay? Is he not? I actually talked a little while ago about where I thought he was going to end up. And I said, I think he's going to stay in Green Bay because this is the same story, different year with him. I don't know how much I believe that the Packers were the ones dragging their feet. I'm sure they were. I'm sure they were trying to find good compensation, trying to see what they wanted to do with their money. But you know what? It's just typical Rodgers, right? He loves the headline. We see this every season. So, I just think it's a lot of drama for what? I think he's been knowing for a while that the Jets was his end game, so he could have just said that.
It was cool. I mean, if it wasn't 1 o'clock in the afternoon, a cool drinking game would be take a shot every time Aaron Rodgers said the word darkness. I came out of the darkness. In the darkness, I had these thoughts. When I came out of the darkness, we get it. Darkness retreat, Aaron Rodgers. I do think it's an interesting situation, though. We can go back to the last season, the last off season, and Aaron Rodgers was dragging his feet for a different reason. Now we know it's because he was allegedly out of his own mouth, was contemplating retirement. And
Yep.
that caused a lot of a domino effect. Devontae Adams left. There wasn't that chemistry that was able to be established with Rodgers and his young wide receiver core. He never really took the effort to kind of work with them like he did in the past with a Jordy Nelson or a Randall Cobb or a Devontae Adams. He threw them under the bus, it seemed like, a few times in the offseason. And now, he is attempting to move to a situation in New Jersey, not New York, yes, New Jersey, that does have a young core that is going to need some leadership. And it's interesting that he's willing to kind of take that role on because it seemed like that's not what he wanted to do in Green Bay.
Yeah, no, it is interesting, and now we're seeing conversations about who he wants with him. He's not only wanting to leave Green Bay, but he's got expectations of here's what I want when I get to New Jersey, to be exact. So, I think I said that I wanted to talk about the chokehold, the Rodgers chokehold. I just feel like he has a chokehold on the media. He's had a chokehold now on two different NFL teams for the past month. They've been trying to figure out what they're going to do with free agency in the offseason, and he's had a chokehold on both of them. So I'm ready for him to let go of these teams, let them make their decisions. It sounds like we're kind of headed in that direction, but yeah, it sounds like he's also got some expectations of what should happen when he gets to New Jersey, which is interesting.
Dive into the expectations and all that. He also has a chokehold on Twitter because he went ahead and on this show called out Adam Schefter and said that he told him to lose his number. That's a direct quote. Adam Schefter then goes ahead and drops the screenshot And he indeed did say, lose my number. Nice try, though. It sounds like me after a terrible first date. Like what I text the guy, like, lose my number.
Lose my
Nice try,
number.
though.
Exactly. That's an
I mean,
Ashley statement for sure.
it's
Absolutely.
definitely out of the Ashley playbook. But I mean, talking about these expectations, you mentioned Aaron Rodgers is asking for this player, that player, this red carpet, this drink in his locker, kombucha by the caseload, all this stuff that he needs to be comfortable with the New York Jets. Okay, cool, I got you, but I better win a Super Bowl because you're not 24
Right.
years old. You're closer to 40 than you are to 30. So, I mean, obviously, with the caliber of a quarterback that he is, when you talk about Tom Brady, when you talk about Aaron Rodgers, you always expect them to be in the Super Bowl conversation. But is he kind of digging himself a little too deep? You get too much dip on your chip, as Cam Newton would say?
Yeah, potentially, because here's the thing, this Jets team was looking pretty stellar in all areas outside of that QB position. So yeah, this was kind of their priority in the offseason, and rightfully so. However, when you spend this kind of money with a guy that has been flirting with retirement as often as Rodgers has, a guy that is at the age that he has, we've seen Rodgers. He is a very talented quarterback. There's no denying that. I will not deny that. However, wins matter, Super Bowls matter, championships matter. So if you're going to invest in a quarterback that's been flirting with retirement, that is the age of Rodgers, yeah, you better win a Super Bowl. It's pretty simple to me. If we're going to invest in you at this age, we could have taken a young guy. We went with Rodgers, and Rodgers is talented, but yeah, you got to win. We got to see a ring.
For sure. I mean, we're definitely going to double back to this Rodgers conversation later in the show. But I mean, speaking of winning a championship and championships matter, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are still not getting along. This is, the Ravens are like the guy who is really in love, but he won't put a ring on it. He's struggling to commit. He's struggling to take that next step. That seems to be what's going on with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. We'll dive deeper into this with Justin Tinsley when he joins us in a few minutes. But Lamar came out and said, he called cap on Schefter's report basically and said, listen, 3 years, 133 million, laughing at that. But I need an agent though. I mean, it just seems like every single way the Ravens can kind of flip off in so many ways. Lamar Jackson, they continuously do it. And it's very concerning because it's a quarterback who has given you every reason to want to keep him within your organization for the long term. He's a great guy on the field, great locker room guy, as like the term that likes to be used in the NFL, but also the intangibles that we're always talking about. He's a guy that people want to go ahead and sign to endorsement deals. He's a guy that hasn't gotten in any trouble off the field. What more do you want from him?
I don't really know. There's a lot, we've always heard these conversations about Lamar Jackson and the dangers that he puts him in being a mobile quarterback. We don't hear the same conversations about Josh Allen, and I think they have a very similar playing style. I think the standard that the Ravens are holding Lamar Jackson to and the excuses that they have for not paying him are bogus in my opinion. And I think Lamar Jackson is in the process of changing the game. He is self-representing. This is something we don't see very often in the league, especially with a player of that caliber. So do I think the Ravens are taking advantage of him self-representing? Yes, I do. But I think, hey, it's important for these players to be able to advocate for themselves. So I have all the respect in the world for a guy like Lamar Jackson. And I think the Ravens he's not backing down as he shouldn't. And the Ravens are trying to take advantage of the fact that he doesn't have representation and he's not folding. So I think the Ravens are foolish is what I think.
Hey, Lamar, we're going to continue this conversation when we get back. We have Justin Tinsley and we have some breaking John Morant news, so you guys don't move. We will be right back.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.